Welcome, my dear student, to our commercial subject group, level 3, account 212. Today we will cover chapter 1, the general journal for merchandise business with perpetual inventory system, and our lesson about the purchase merchandise. By the end of this lesson, students should be able to, firstly, identify the difference between service and merchandise companies. Secondly, describe the steps in determining inventory quantity. Thirdly, identify the item making up merchandise inventory. Fourthly, identify the cost of merchandise inventory. And fifthly, explain the recording of purchase under a perpetual inventory system without cash discount. And we will finally end with explain the recording of purchase under a perpetual inventory with cash discount. Let us start with identifying the difference between the service and the merchandise company. Firstly, what's the meaning of service business? It's a business that provides a service to the customer. Let us take an example for that. We have the accountant, law firm, and we have also the cleaning service. Secondly, the merchandising business. What's the meaning of the merchandising business? It's a business that sells goods to a customer. Also, it's known as the merchandise. For example of that, we have the retail, clothing, grocery stores, and the bookstores. These are the examples of the merchandise business. Shifting to the definition of the perpetual inventory system. Companies keep detailed record for the cost of each inventory purchased and sales. This record continuously or perpetually shows the inventory that should be on hand for every item. Companies that sell product with fixed price use this type of system, which is the perpetual inventory system. Let us take a look about the perpetual inventory system. The perpetual inventory system, it's also the double entry system, and it's constant of debit and credit side. On the debit side, we will cover 3 topics. The purchase goods, and it's called also the inventory. Second, the sales return of goods. And thirdly, the sales discount of goods. In the credit side, we will cover the sales goods, the purchase return of the goods, and it's also called inventory. And finally, the purchase discount goods, and also called inventory. Let us take a look about the recording investment in the general journal. By our example, we will see the investment, how it's recorded. On January 1st, 2020, Salman Company invests cash of 60,000 in the business. How can we record this transaction in our general journal? If I invest, so the capital will affect and it will be increased. And also I invest by cash, so the cash also will increase. When I come to record this transaction, I should write the date, and then my cash will increase and it will affect the debit side, and I will write the 60,000 in the debit side. Also my capital will increase and it will affect the credit side, and I will come to the credit side and write the 60,000. Moving to the purchase good for cash. On our example, Salman Company purchased merchandise from Raja. So, the Salman is the buyer and Raja is the seller. He purchased the goods of 8,000 for cash. If I purchase a goods, so my merchandise inventory will increase. And if I pay for this inventory, my cash will decrease. Because that, I will put the inventory on the debit side because it will increase, and the cash for my company will decrease, and I will decrease it on the credit side. Moving to the purchase return and allowance for goods for cash. In our example, also Salman Company received a refund from Raja. The amount of this refund is 350 BD. How can I write this transaction? If I received the money from the Raja, so the cash on my company will increase, and it will increase by 350 on the debit side. The cash increase because of the purchase return, so my inventory will decrease because that I bought it on the credit side and I mentioned with the figure of 350 on the credit side. Shifting to the purchase good on account without discount. In our example, Salman can purchase a merchandise from Sultan with amount of 12,500 on account. On this purchase, I didn't pay cash for this purchase. I keep it on account. So, my purchase, which is the merchandise inventory on my company, will increase because I purchased more inventory, but I didn't pay for this purchase. I keep it on account. So, my liability also will increase. The inventory will increase and it will be affect the debit side with the 12,500, and my liability, which is the account payable, will increase also on the credit side with the amount of 12,500. Moving to the purchase return and allowance for good on account without discount also. For Salman company, receive a refund from Sultan with amount of 500 for returns good on account. When I have the returns good that I purchased it before, but it's in account, so my liability will decrease. And I will put the figure on the debit side to decrease my liability, which is the account payable. Also, my inventory will decrease and it will affect the credit side with 500. Moving to the payment of net purchase to creditors without discount also. Salman company paid the full amount due to Sultan company. If I pay the amount it's due, so my liability, the account payable, will decrease, and also the cash will decrease because I pay the amount. For the accounts payable, if it decrease, it will affect the debit side with the 12,000, and the cash also will decrease and affect the credit side with 12,000. Okay, my dear student, from where I get the 12,000? Previously, I purchased the merchandise with amount of 12,500 and return the amount of 500. So, the total amount due is the 12,000. Shifting to the purchase good on account with discount. Let us take this example. Salman company purchased a merchandise from Iman with amount of 20,600 with a term of, with this term. Let us take more details for the term that I have it. It means the 2%, the cash discount that I will get it if I make the payment within 10 days. If I make the payment after finishing the 10 days until 30 days, I should pay the full amount without any discount. So, in our example, firstly, I purchase a merchandise with amount of 20,600. Let us write the purchase transaction. If I purchase a merchandise, so the inventory for me will increase, and also by this term, I know that I didn't pay the amount of this purchase. So the purchase will be on account. So my liability will increase with account payable, and it will be 20,600 affected on the credit side. Shifting to the purchase, return and allowance of good on account with discount. In our example, Salman company received a refund from Iman with amount of 600. How can I write this refund? And the refund was on account. If I received the refund, so my liability will decrease with amount of 600, and it will affect the debit side because the liability is decreased. Also, my merchandise inventory will decrease and it will affect the credit side with amount of 600. Moving to the payment of the net purchase to creditors with discount. In our example, January 23rd, Salman Company paid full due amount to the Iman Company. Let us take a note. I purchased the merchandise at the 16th of January. So, when I decide to pay the amount, I decide to pay it on the 23rd. So, I pay it during 10 days. If I pay it during 10 days, I will get the discount. So, in my transaction, I will get the discount on this amount. If I pay the liability, I have it, my account payable will decrease. How can I get the amount of account payable? The amount, it will be the 20,000, but how can I get it? Before I purchase 20,600, the amount of the merchandise that I purchase it, I subtract the 600, the amount of the return, and I get this 20,000, the amount of the account payable. Because I pay during the 10 days, I get a discount. So, the discount will be called for me as a merchandise inventory. And how can I calculate this discount? I will take the amount I pay it, multiply it with the percent of the discount, which is 2%. And it will be 400. Also, I will pay the remaining account for me, and it will be 19,600, which is the amount I will pay it and will decrease my cash. The total amount on the credit side will be 20,000. So, the debit side should be equal to the credit side. Moving to the recording of the payment after discount period in the general journal. In our example, Salman Company paid full due amount to Iman, but it's paid on the 28th of January. So it is after 10 days and before 13 days. So in this case, they will not get a discount. If they pay the amount or the liability they have it, the account payable will decrease by the amount of 20,000. And we explained before how can we get the 20,000. If I pay, so my cash also will decrease, and it will be decreased by the full amount that due. After we explain the transaction, my dear student, we will shift to take a simple activity. On our activity, Badr Company used the Perpetual inventory system and had the following transaction during October 2020. On October 2nd, Badr Company purchased merchandise for 5,000. The seller credit term R. This is the term I have it. So the purchase was on account. On the 6th of October, there is a return merchandise for 300 worth of deficit unit on credit. On 8th of October, paid the amount due less the returned item. How can we write our transaction? For the first transaction on October 2nd, I purchased a merchandise, so the merchandise for me will increase by the amount that I purchased it with amount 5,000. Does I pay for this purchase? No, I didn't pay for it because they give me a term that mentioned that the purchase was on credit. So the liability on my company will increase, the account payable will increase also by 5,000 on the credit side. Moving to the second transaction, the return merchandise for 300. If there is a return, so the inventory for me will decrease and it will affect the credit side with 300, and the liability for me also will decrease, and it will affect the debit side with 300, the amount of the return. Shifting to the last transaction, the paying of the amount due. If I want to pay the amount due, so the account payable for my company also will decrease, and it will be 4,700. How can I get this amount? I should take the 5,000, the amount of purchase, minus the 3,000, the amount of return, and I will get the amount that should I pay it. Because of paying the amount due, the merchandise inventory will get discount. Why will get discount? Because it's paid during 10 days. So I will take the amount due, I will multiply it with the discount percent, which is 4%, and I will get the discount amount, which is 188. Also, if I pay the liability that I have it, the cash will decrease, and it will be the remaining account, the difference between the total liability minus the discount, and I will get 4,512. And if I take the total of the credit side, it will be equal to the total of the debit side. Moving to the second activity. Ahmed purchased goods for 8,000 from Abdullah with a term, with this term. If Ahmed paid within a discount period, within 10 days, the payment cash will be 7,840. Is this amount is right or wrong, my dear student? Think about it. Let us check our answer. The cash will be 8,000, the amount of purchase, and I will multiply it by 100% minus the percent of the discount. So, will be the 8,000 multiplied by the total percentage, which is 98%, and I will get the total of cash, 7,840. So, the answer is right. Second, Fawaz purchased goods for 8,000 from Rehab Company with a term of, this is our term. The general journal must be recorded as the merchandise inventory on the debit side, and on the credit side should be the cash. Is it right or wrong, my dear student? Think about it. Let us check our answer. It is wrong. Why it's wrong? Because before they write, on the credit side, they write cash, but the purchase was on credit because of this term. So I should mention the liability that I have it.